Boss is one of the most mysterious characters in Petscop, in the Petscop series. We only get three mentions of this character. We get one in Petscop 20. This is really late in the series, by the way. This is Petscop 20. This is Marvin asking Tool, supposedly Raynor, I'm assuming, who his boss is. Then we have the Garalina room in Petscop 23, which is a whole nother bag of worms. And then we have the secret ending of the soundtrack. So I'll show you both of those scenes here really quick. But first, I do want to explain that no theory about Boss has really been satisfying in the Petscop community. Because a lot of us just take the interpretation that Lena was alive the whole time. However, we do see a grave of her in Petscop 17. And Petscop 17 and 20 were released on the same Easter week, the same Petscop bomb, I guess. So if Tony was going to retcon that, it wouldn't have been immediately. So either Daniel mistakenly thought Lena was dead and told Care, or Boss is someone other than Lena. But so much of Boss's traits match those of Lena. So what's going on here? Well, I do think I have one explanation for it. There is, of course, a zombie Lena theory, which has one piece of evidence to it at all, but I'm not really going to get into that. I'm instead going to get into a separate idea. So first off, I'm going to show you the secret ending of Petscop.
And now.
So this is the secret ending. This is the secret soundtrack ending to Petscop. And this will give us some idea of Boss. There is Boss waiting for her son. Boss waiting for her son. So Boss has a son, and she's female. Paul. Do you remember being born? Smuggled away. So, remember being born can refer to two things. It could refer to Paul's actual birth, or the day he was kidnapped and had to, eventually go through that horrible machine. The reference to smuggled away makes me think it was this day where he was taken away from his house. He was smuggled away. Driving to your new house. Of course, the school would have been like a house for Kara during that time. Boss in driver seat. Me in back. Okay, so in my big old Petscop theory, I did discuss how I think Marvin was playing Petscop in the car on his way to Anna's house in like a car, because he wanted to, kidnap Care and then like get out of there really quick. And he did show up very quickly after asking that. So, you're not supposed to play Petscop and drive, so someone else would have been driving the car at the time. Now, this wouldn't have been Lena, because if Lena was alive the whole time and Marvin knew it, that kind of ruins his motivation. At least the way I understand his motivation. If Lena was alive, he wouldn't have been trying to bring her back through anyone, However, there is one bit of information about Marvin that a lot of people don't consider. He has a lot of victims. Marvin has a lot of victims. Um, you know, we only know about Mike, Care, and Bell, but we see 3 graves out in the Newmaker Plain. Now, of course, Mike died and Lena died, but who's the 3rd grave belong to? Because, there wouldn't have been a 3rd grave out there unless Marvin killed somebody else or was responsible for somebody else's death. So, we do know that there's more victims of Marvin than just the ones we get by name. And who's to say they are all children? Some of them could be adults. Marvin does try to kidnap Paul when he's an adult, so some of these victims of his could be adults. So Boss, being the sort of unnamed victim of his, who is an adult that he's trying to turn into Lena, if they were referring to her as Lena the whole time, that would be the name Belle and Care would know her by. Now, I did theorize that Tiara is actually Lena's middle name, and that's why Belle was called that. But if we do have this 3rd victim that sort of has an air of mystery over them, who's like an adult, maybe she was the one who was given the name Lena. Now, let's keep going through this video. I could not wait to be your friend. Family. So, if this is them reminiscing about the time that Care was kidnapped, that's a little weird, right? That's a little weird. But if it's more so they're reminiscing about their friendship, they were kind of together during this time. They might have developed like a sort of little family, even though they were in like a dark situation with a madman watching over them. They could have seen this female adult, as sort of like a motherly figure to them. Now, there is some more information about Boss, actually, that I do want to get into. It's pretty early in Petscop 23. It's like the first thing we see. So, we see the Garolina room. And I theorized the purpose of the Garolina room was that, well, it was Marvin's room. Like, he had hacked into the Garolina website, was using it to develop some stuff in Petscop, which could still be true. And he was definitely using it to spy on the Petscop kids. But we do see Boss in this room as well. So if my theory is true, that this is an adult who Marvin kidnapped and was, trying to convince that she was Lena, but she was an adult, so she could kind of see through some of Marvin's bullcrap. And she's Raynor's boss. Maybe this sort of Raynor's boss could have been the one telling him what Marvin was doing and trying to get him to find the school. That's possible. This does present the situation, however, where we do have a brand new character in Petscop that, even after the series is over, we don't know the actual name of. But I have thought, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do this, because it would take a lot of effort, and some of these games I don't even think are playable anymore. Garolina is mentioned in some of Daniel's other games, so it's possible this boss of Garolina that Marvin kidnapped, it's possible this boss uh, actually does have some lore relevance in some of these other Garalina games. That's possible. I'm not certain though. I'm not 100% convinced. Either way, I think that is a new interpretation of boss that we have. It's someone new, but because Marvin had been brainwashing all his victims into thinking they were Lena, she would have been using the name Lena, and she would have maybe looked a lot like Lena in some ways. Perhaps.